with Sev Tok. It's Grant Cameron. Sev is a good friend and got an incredibly interesting story. And we got some news from Sev today about a little project she's got going and a little bit of an update on stuff she's experienced since we last talked. So Sev, go ahead and let's hear what's happening in your world down in North Carolina, correct?
Yes.
Beautiful. With a beautiful view. Maybe move out of the way so we can see this beautiful view here for the listeners here. And explain what this was. You told us what this was.
I am on the inner banks of North Carolina, and this is Beard's Creek, and it's named after Blackbeard. He had his head cut off at Ocracoke Island, which is nearby, and rumor has it that his sister lived somewhere around here.
It's beautiful, beautiful view.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so you've got a new project that you wanted to talk to me a little bit about, and an experience, and then you talked to my good friend who lives in North Carolina, Chris Bledsoe. Yeah. And so let's go through those three things. Just tell us what's been up.
Okay. Thank you, Grant. Thank you again for this opportunity. I love talking to you.
Beautiful.
So the purpose of writing my book was to help experiencers come out. And through the book and through doing interviews with you, I have had a tremendous response. There have been a lot of experiencers contacting me. So many that it's hard for me to keep up with. And so I reached out to two of my friends. One of them is Beverly Nation, who I'm going to be doing an interview with too. And another one is my good friend Cecilia. And I'm like, I need to be able to organize this so I can really connect with everyone who's contacting me, because it's just so much. And I don't want anyone to feel like they're being ignored or not heard. Okay. So Cecilia had suggested a blog, and then Beverly suggested that I actually have a tab on my website, and that people can go in there and write their experience down, and that I would be the only one that would read it. So that's what I've done. It's called Encounters, and on my website there's a tab. My website is planetsev.com, and there's a tab called Encounters, and you can go in there and you can tell me your experience and I will respond. And the reason I'm doing this is because it's very therapeutic to write your experience down, whether you've had 1 or 10. And it's also very therapeutic for someone who believes you to read it, someone who wants to support you and help you process it. And that's me. That's what I want to do. And I will respond. I don't know of any other forum where an experiencer can write in their story and get a response. And I just want to put that out into the world. And it's very important for me that people who've had experiences come to terms with it. Come to terms with it, accept it as their truth, and within themselves, and hopefully then be able to speak about it, because the more of us that speaks about it, the quicker everyone's going to realize that this is the truth.
Can you give me one example of something that someone has told you that sort of gave you something really enlightening that you didn't know?
Yes, there was this one gentleman who said that there's plasma residue. Have you ever heard about this?
No, I haven't, no. No.
Yes, I heard that from a couple of people, that there's an appearance and then there's like this plasma residue. And that's very interesting. I don't know if he took any pictures of that or if he got any samples. I wish sometimes we could just take samples of things and have them scientifically tested, but that's not easy to do. Yeah. And also just a lot of stories about people being in spaceships and what they see, and the kind of beings that they see. You had asked me, Grant, if I had asked any questions to the being that I saw last week, and I didn't. And so now that's going to be my intent with my next experience, is that I want to be very consciously aware that I should be asking questions. The young lady that I had the shared experience with, Jenna, and we're going to talk about all this in a few minutes. I asked her if she asked any questions, and she said no, because I was just in awe of what I was seeing. So I said, well, I think we should both consciously make it a point to start asking questions. Wow. While we're having these experiences. The thing is, you're just so shocked while you're in that moment. It's just hard to even ask a question.
Wow. Wow. But you have gotten some photographs. You talk about the one, maybe we can attach it. You've got an actual photo of your cat with the orb.
Yes.
That was fascinating.
Yes. And the reason I took that photograph was because she was meowing and looking up at the ceiling, and she was pawing at something. So I took the photograph, and there's the orb. I pay attention to how my cats react. And the incident that we're going to talk about, which I call the white dog encounter, happened just 6 days ago. It just happened on March 22nd. And right after it happened, once again, the same cat started staring up at the ceiling and pawing at something. So there's some kind of correlation when I have an incident. There seems to be something in the room that my cat can see.
Wow. So let's go into the story. This happened, do you have experiences quite often, or?
Yeah.
So you're going back 6 days. So you would have, since we first did the interview, you've had how many experiences? And this would be the most dramatic, I imagine, this one 6 days ago. Like, do you have an experience once a week, or that you can remember, or is it picking up? Is it more than it was before?
It's going full speed ahead.
Okay.
It's really, everything feels like it's in fast motion. I've had several experiences since the last time we talked.
Okay. So let's talk about this bizarre story with the dog.
Yeah. Okay. I was in bed and my eyes popped open, as they always do after an incident. It's like this instant state of awake. There's no grogginess. My eyes pop open. I'm looking out the window and I see that the sky is starting to get light. And so I thought, oh, okay, it's time for me to get up. And I rolled over and I looked at my cell phone, and it was only 4:30. It was exactly 4:30 in the morning. And I was confused because the sky is not light at 4:30 in the morning. So I rolled over and I went to sleep. I woke up around 6, and I woke up very slowly, and my cat's meowing and looking at the ceiling and pawing at things. And I start having this memory that I was in a room sitting at a table, and the walls and the ceiling of the room were made out of these big panes of glass, and in between the panes of glass were steel. And I was high up. I was in a high building. I was on the top floor because I could see the ceiling. And outside of the windows, I could see other tall buildings. So I was obviously in a city. There were other tall buildings there with windows. And all of a sudden, a spaceship lands on the ceiling or on the roof, and I can see it because the ceiling is mostly glass. And the spaceship is fairly small, like 20 to 30 feet, and it's disc-shaped. And when it lands, it does not land flat. It lands tilted because of the bottom of the spaceship was slightly round. And I grabbed my phone to take a photograph, but the camera function on the phone would not work. And I'm trying to get it to work, but it will not work. So I give up. And just then, there's this doorway in front of me. This being walks in. And I'd never seen this being before. And it was solid white. And it was glowing. It looked like a walking light bulb. And it was somewhere between 4 and 5 feet tall. It was shorter than I am. I'm 5'2". And even though I remained sitting, and it walked in, and when it walked in, I was looking at its side. I never saw this being face on. And I didn't notice eyes. It was just like the shape of a kid. It had a head and 2 arms and 2 legs, and it was just super white and super glowy. And I walked into the room, and in with it walked a super white, super glowy dog. And I'd never seen a dog in any of my experiences before. And the dog did not have eyes. It had 2 pointy ears. It had a tail, 4 legs. It had a muzzle, but it didn't have a black nose. And then all of a sudden, this dog is on this stainless steel table right in front of me. It's the kind of table you would see in a doctor's office or at the vet. And the dog is on it, it's lying on its right side, just right in front of me. And I wondered if it was alive, and I looked at it and it was alive, and I wasn't quite sure why I was looking at this dog. Now, the dog had no fur, and its skin was really thin in that below the skin there were these really faint blue marks, and I don't know if I was looking at the outside of organs or if I was looking at veins. And the other thing that was strange about its skin is that it had lines on it, and to me, it looked like if you wrapped a dog in a white ace bandage and you would have like those white lines, it looked like that.
Oh.
So that's when my eyes popped open and I was back to 3D. So when I woke up at 6, I start remembering all these things, and then I look over at my phone to see what time it is, and I see that my girlfriend Jenna, who lives in Florida, she's 30 years old, had texted me at 4:49. So I woke up at 4:30, she texted me at 4:49. And it's right here, and she says, I saw iridescent aliens. I was taken on a spaceship. My car is damaged. And she sent me a photograph of her forearm, which was like completely scratched. And this just kind of shocked me. Jenna and I have had some interesting interdimensional experiences before, but we've never been taken together before. So I talked to her, and she saw blue iridescent beings, which I have seen before too, but I've seen these blue iridescent beings when I was completely wide awake with my eyes open. And they were the same beings that she saw. And I think it might be the same beings that Chris Bledsoe saw. And she saw babies in test tubes, which I had seen in the past before. Hers differed a little in that the babies were in these round like pods, and they were all stacked in these test tubes. She made a drawing of it. And she remembers being outside in this giant bubble, like in the air in a giant bubble, and there was a triangular spaceship hovering right next to her car. And when the beings in the spaceship, excuse me, looked at her, the bubble popped, and all of a sudden she was in the spaceship. And these iridescent beings that I have seen before are absolutely gorgeous. And she was just stunned at how beautiful they were. And she notices a whole bunch of white dogs running around. Wow. Yeah. And that's where she really got my attention. And she said, I felt like I was of these people, like I should be on the spaceship. I shouldn't be in my condo. And whenever she started to get nervous, they would look at her and she would instantly calm down. Okay. So when she comes back to 3D, she goes outside to look at her car. And on the side where this triangular spaceship was, her car is seriously damaged. She sent me several photographs.
I've seen them, yeah.
And, excuse me?
I've seen them, yes. We'll attach the photographs. I've seen the photographs. She sent them to me, yeah. Yes,
we're going to attach the drawings and the photographs because I think it helps for anyone who hears the story to see the photos and the drawings. Yeah. And it looks like something rotating skimmed against her car. And it's not just in one spot, it's in several spots. And so I joked about what she's going to tell the insurance company. and when I talked to her yesterday, I said, have you called the insurance company? And she said, no, not yet. And I think that is the bulk of the story. I can go more into the blue iridescent beings, but that's from my experience from a different story. But that is what happened Friday morning.
Okay, let's go to the being that you see, the one that resembles Chris Bledsoe's. We'll attach that as well. Chris Bledsoe's little being, his had the red goggles on. You wouldn't see the red eyes because you were looking on the side, right? But it described his. Well, let me describe his, and then you describe yours. His was, he said, it looked like it was encased in glass, and it was very, very giving off light. But it looked like it was encased sort of in glass, sort of shiny. And he had the red goggles. Now you see the similar being. His was maybe 3 feet tall, maybe not even 3 feet tall, very small. And didn't say anything to him, just was there. He was close enough to touch it. And you see it, but you see it from the side, correct?
I saw it from the side, and it looked just like the drawing, Chris's painting. Now the thing is, I did not hear about Chris's experience or until 2 or 3 days after my experience. So I did not even realize that Chris really had seen the white beings with the blue beings. And in his experience, he says his son saw 4-legged beings.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, do these white beings and these blue beings, I call them the blue people, and these dogs all travel together? Are they connected somehow?
Well, you'd have to talk to Chris, but I think what happened with Chris Jr., was he saw the beings in the bush, and when they were looking at him, he couldn't move. As long as they were looking at him, he was unable to move, and he was very, very frightened. And so when the experience ended, there was 5 witnesses. So they're in this truck, and Chris is driving out of this river area up this very steep hill. So if you go to see Chris, he'll take you to this area, and he'll show you the hill, he'll show you the tree. There's all sorts of sort of very key positions where because there was 14 or 15 UFOs the first night, and all these aliens. It was not just one sighting. And so they're driving up this incline, and that's when they're looking back. Chris is driving, some of the contractors and Chris's son are looking back, and that's when the little 3-foot being that you saw, the white being, turns into an animal. And it's running behind the truck, and it's coming closer to the truck. And Chris Jr. told me, he said, I have seen every animal in the world, and there was no animal that could move as fast as that thing was moving. And it was coming up on the truck, and it was about to grab onto the back of Chris's truck, and they were yelling, go, go. And Chris is saying, I'm going as fast as I can. And the branches are hitting the truck, and he's going up this hill as they're going up, and this thing is grabbing onto the back of the truck. And then they go to the top, and they come off this incline, and they're up in the air, and the truck lands on the road, and there's this UFO sitting in the middle of the road. And then I said, well, what happened to the being that it turned into all 4s, this thing that was chasing? And he said, I don't know. But the last thing I remember, it was about to grab onto the back of the truck, and that's why they're saying, go, 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 it's coming. And this thing is running after the truck. So it's in his case, it seemed like the being turned into this animal type thing that was on all 4s that was chasing the truck. And it was white as well. So there's maybe a connection where they can actually sort of move from one to the other. They have the connection. At one point, Chris believed that the white beings were the children of the tall blue ones. But again, that may be something that they're giving you more information that will help solve what this actually is. Can they actually move from one being to another? Can they transform, or are they set into whatever they are? So it's very interesting you saw the 2 together, because Chris, I did hear Chris Jr. tell me the story.
And Chris Sr. also saw a blue being.
Yes.
If anyone hasn't watched the video where Chris explains his story, the Fayetteville incident, I actually have the video on my YouTube channel, alienspirittv. It's in a playlist. And I have a couple of your videos too on my Alien Spirit TV, Grant. I have a playlist called Grant Cameron, and I have one called Chris Bledsoe.
Beautiful. Yeah. And so you're going to hopefully meet any idea of why you've been chosen for this? Why do you think they're interacting with you as opposed to somebody who watches this video who says, well, I'd like to have an experience. How come I don't have an experience? How come Sev has an experience? What would be your answer to them?
Oh, okay. A couple of people have sent in comments asking me that. And I personally believe anyone can make contact with an ET. Anyone can make contact with an angel or a spirit guide or any other being. I think what speeds up the process of having contact is your state of mind and what you believe. It's also the energy that you radiate. It's a lot to go into right now. And also, some of us are here on Earth with the mission of divulging this. So in order for us to divulge it, we have to interact with them. And we have to have these experiences in order to tell people about them. And so some people have these experiences and they get so freaked out, they don't want any more experiences. And they might be one of these messengers that come to Earth to tell the truth. But maybe it's just too overwhelming for them and they just kind of cut off the contact. Whereas some of us, like me, I was scared in the beginning, but there was this driving force within me to get over the fear. And once I got over the fear, the amount of contact has increased and increased and increased and increased. To the point now where I actually saw what I call the blue people when I was wide awake, sitting in my living room. They came and they sat on the couch.
Wow.
When
did that happen?
That happened maybe a month ago. Remember I was telling you I got information about Tchaikovsky?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I call them the blue people, and they told me about Tchaikovsky, about Disney, and about Tesla, and how those three men were actually in communication with the blue people. And Tesla and Disney have met, or did meet. And Tchaikovsky, when you listen to Tchaikovsky's music, it's written so that it activates codes in the brain to help you fulfill your potential. Interestingly enough, one of Disney's most famous movies is Fantasia, and that's all Tchaikovsky music. So there is some kind of correlation between those men. Tchaikovsky has been my favorite composer since I was a little girl. I've been fascinated with Tesla since I was a teenager, and I've been in love with Disney since I was a little girl too.
Wow. It almost sounds like you have to do another book now.
Oh.
On your, it's sort of almost like beyond talking to aliens, or like another book where you elaborate on, because you seem to be having some pretty clear and telling experience as to what's going on, whereas your first book is just sort of like almost an introduction of how here's this person who was not having experiences suddenly gets awoken and starts having experiences, and now it's almost like, as I referred to as Chris Bledsoe, where your level of contact seems to be increasing all the time, as if they've got your attention and now they're starting to pass you messages and symbols and stuff like that. And this interaction with your friend, where you're having these common experiences between the two of you. It's not just you. It's almost like they're working it together with the two of you to tell some sort of story. They want you to tell a story, which is what Chris Bledsoe believes he's here to do. Is he's been given, as he said, the message you got from the Shining Lady was, Chris, you have a burden and it is yours to carry. And I said, what is the burden? And he said, the burden is the message. That's what they told him, because he didn't want to talk about it, because he was in, he had a lot of backlash from the religious community where he lives, and he stopped talking about it for 4 years. He didn't talk about his experience, and that's when he got pulled and said, you have a burden and it is yours to carry, this Shining Lady, angelic type figure. And that was what they told him. It is your job to talk. And that's when he started to come forward.
Are they making a movie of his experience, or have they already?
They're doing something in Hollywood. I'm not sure whether it's a TV series. It was going to be with Warner Brothers. Mel Gibson had gotten interest in the story, and they wanted to do it. And then they wouldn't give him control at the end of the movie. That's my understanding. And he said, no, I have to have control at the end of the movie, because they may want to turn it into an evil alien movie. And that's where I think the contract fell apart 3 times, where Chris just wouldn't give them, they wanted to be able to tell the story their way. And he said, no, there's a message. I have the message to put out, and it has to be the message. So it comes to the same thing as you, is if suddenly they offer you $1 million for your story, are you going to sell the story if they are going to spin the story and make a different story out of it?
Which is what Travis Walton says, right? Travis Walton?
Yeah, yeah.
He says that how they portrayed his time on the spaceship isn't accurate, and he didn't know
Yeah.
he was going to do that. He's not happy about that.
Yeah.
Am I correct?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's the whole thing is you are sort of a messenger, and so too much is given, much is expected. You're now in control of the message, and you have to decide how the message gets put out. And you may get people who will maybe offer you to keep quiet or to tell your story for a lot of money, but you have to make sure that the message is pure the way you heard it, because otherwise, what good is it if the message gets changed from what you were actually told?
I agree, and my message is not a fear-based message. Yeah. And what sells in Hollywood is fear, and I am not instilling fear, and I don't want my stories to be turned into scary stories.
Well, what about the people that contact you? Is it basically, are they good stories, bad stories in terms of their experiences? Or because a lot of people describe bad experiences, but basically they're talking about fear. They were very, like, they can't believe what's happening and stuff like that.
Right, and the unknown is scary, and 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 if we can move through the fear, then maybe we can open up ourselves to have some more experiences and actually hear the messages that these beings have messages of love. Like the blue people, I call them the blue people, they are so loving. And they're interacting with us because we really need a giant injection of love in our society. And that's what the basic message is to love one another, love the animals, and stop abusing each other. And I don't resonate with the scary, evil aliens at all. You and I were talking about this, and I don't resonate with that either.
Beautiful. Okay.
My YouTube channel is alienspirittv, and there's a video on there explaining what encounters is. Encounters is a forum for experiencers to write their story down. I'll read it and I'll respond. And it's a form of, hopefully, a therapeutic form to help you process your experiences and not be afraid. And you can find encounters on my website, planetsev.com. There's a tab called Encounters, and I really invite everyone to share their stories with me so we can all feel a lot safer about what's going on, and we can come out, and then we can all finally know the truth that we are not alone.
Beautiful.